Welcome back, everybody. We will now see that how exactly you can just get to know the life cycle of the instance, because the life cycle of the instance is dependent upon the purchasing option of the instance. Let's do one thing. I just go to the EC2 under the compute section so that we can just launch one instance from scratch. So I just click on this launch instance and click on launch instance once again. And I just pick any one of the AMI. So let's pick the Amazon Linux AMI. And I click on review and launch. One thing I need to just show you that in this case, the example that we're taking, the purchasing option would be the on demand, because this is a kind of, you can say, an instance which will be launched without going for any reserved instance capacity. I'm not reserving any instance. So the purchasing option would be the on demand. So I'm not go with any spot instance or scheduled instance. This would be purely the on demand instance. And the tenancy that I need to go for is shared. Shared is the default one. If you want to deploy your instance on a dedicated physical server, then you go with a dedicated tenancy instance or dedicated host. So I go with shared. So in this case, my instance will be launched on a shared piece of hardware, on a shared physical server. So it's also called the default tenancy. This also reflects the life cycle of the instance. So the tenancy and the purchasing option, these are the two different attributes which reflect or which decide upon the life cycle of the instance. So what I mean by life cycle, this means that it's a period, it's a time frame between the instance gets started and the instance is being terminated. So I go with the default options. I go with the on-demand purchasing option and the default tenancy or the shared tenancy. So I click on review and launch, and I choose the existing key pair and launch my instance. Now, immediately I just click on this instance ID and I just search for the life cycle. Now, the life cycle is set to normal because the purchasing option that was chosen or that was being pre-configured was or is on demand. So if you have an on-demand instance being up and running, so the life cycle will show up as normal. In case of spot, it will show as spot. In case of scheduled, it will show as scheduled. Apart from that, if I just search for tenancy, it shows default because I had chosen the shared tenancy, right? So shared is the default tenancy option. In case of dedicated instance, it will show as the dedicated host or the dedicated instance. So because in my case it's default, this means that my instance is launched on a shared physical server on a shared piece of hardware. It's a shared / default tenancy. It's not a dedicated one. So if it's a dedicated tenancy, the tenancy will show as dedicated. In case of dedicated host, the tenancy will show as host. Now, how you can just get to know about this thing through CLI or the command line interface. Let me show you that. So I open my terminal and let me show you that how exactly you can just get to know about this thing using the terminal. So let me just open my terminal window real quick and let me just open a new window and let me just increase the font size of it. Okay. So let's type in AWS configure because I'll be using some parameters or the inputs to configure my CLI. So I just type 4 enters to accept the previous settings. So I've already got into the CLI mode. Now you have to run the following command to get to know that what is the life cycle or the tenancy of the instance. So the tenancy and the life cycle can be extracted using the following command: AWS space EC2 space describe dash instances. So let's click on enter. It will show me the description of all the instances that are up and running. In my case, there's only one instance that's up and running. Now, if I just search for tenancy, it is default, right? This is a default or the shared tenancy. If the tenancy is dedicated, that means that that's a dedicated instance. If the tenancy is host, that's the dedicated host. but nowhere I will be able to see the life cycle, because if your life cycle is normal, it is the which means that you have went for the on-demand instance, then it will not show up in the CLI. It will not show up. You can see that it doesn't show me the life cycle because it's a normal or it's an on-demand purchasing option instance. In case of other purchasing options like scheduled or spot, it will show you on the CLI. Okay, so that's how you can get to know that what is the life cycle of the instance. What's the time frame, or how the time frame will be decided depending on the life cycle, because it's a time period, it's a time frame between the instance is being launched and the instance is being stopped or terminated. So that's the entire process.